There's a new wave of NFL Hokies. Baseball looks to bounce back, and it's looking like a Willy Wonka movie the way golden tickets have been handed out in Blacksburg as we get set for Enter Sandman for real on the 3304 Sports First Pitch Show.
Hello and welcome inside the beautiful Moss Arts Center studio on a Friday morning. I'm Cody Wagner with my man Riley Klaus. How about the weather in Blacksburg? It's just been beautiful.
I mean, why not talk about that first? The sun is out. Might get a little rain, but it is absolutely beautiful temperature-wise. Yeah. We're getting to the end of the school year. Maybe a couple finals got to lock in for. Had the NFL draft last week. There's a lot going on in Blacksburg.
Yeah, well, Virginia Tech produced some real NFL talent this year. The most Hokies drafted since way back in 2018. For more on that, here's our very own Robbie Ackerley.
Every year at the end of April, college football's finest all seek the exact same thing, and that's to hear their name called at the NFL draft. Here in Blacksburg, that desire is no different, and players from Virginia Tech used to be a staple of the draft. From 1994 to 2022, two or more Hokies heard their name called in all but two drafts. In 2023, however, it was one Hokie, and 2024, it was zero. This disaster of a 2024 draft broke a nearly three-decade streak of a Hokie hearing their name throughout the NFL draft. In 2025, however, Blacksburg made their presence felt. It was not one, not two, not three, not even four, but five Hokies who were selected this past Saturday. Although they were all called on the third and final day of the draft, this was a huge accomplishment, not only for these young men, but for Virginia Tech football as a whole. 5 players drafted was good for second in all of the ACC. But who were these 5 players called? And do any of these day 3 draft picks have a chance to make a difference in the pros? Let's take a look. We start down in Daly's place, where on the opening pick of day 3, it was Bashal Tutin, who heard his name called by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tutin was able to capture the attention of scouts with his impressive Tech tape, most notably that 266-yard performance against Boston College. He held on to that attention with his 4.32 40-yard dash, the fastest out of all running backs. With Travis Etienne's inefficiencies leading to him being benched, and Tank Bigsby's failure to light the world on fire when assuming the starting role last season, Tutin enters Jacksonville in year 1 with a chance to compete for a starting job. If you're a dynasty fantasy football player, I'd say invest now. The next Hokie did not have to wait long after Tutin, 24 picks to be exact. This time, it was fellow Combine speedster Jalen Lane who found out he'd be staying in the DMV, joining a young Commanders team that is loaded up for Jane Daniels this offseason. With 4.34 speed and some of the best athleticism among wideouts in this entire draft class, Lane brings a great combination of quickness, agility, and versatility to this already explosive Commanders offense. He does have his work cut out for him in terms of earning offensive touches due to competing with Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, and Noah Brown. But with Oladme Zaccheaus departing for Chicago, that punt returner job is wide open in D.C. Hey, Raza, expect some highlight reel plays from Jalen Lane. That was the final offensive player selected for Virginia Tech. But anyone who watched Tech football last season knows just how talented some of the guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage are. Kicking off round 6, the Buffalo Bills bolstered their secondary with cornerback Dorian Strong. Like his last name suggests, at 6'1", Strong is a disruptor. His ball-hawking abilities make him a nightmare for quarterbacks to test, and that's assuming whoever he's guarding was able to break his press man. He'll look to help out a Buffalo defense that allowed the 9th most passing yards per game last season. And this Bills cornerback room is crowded, but Buffalo understands they need all the help they can get when it comes to finally getting over the hump that is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs come playoff time. Another championship contender, another Hokie. You ever hear the saying, the rich get richer? Well, I'm sure Howie Roseman was saying it all draft weekend. The Eagles stole Alabama linebacker Jahad Campbell at pick 31 in round 1, but at pick 209, the Eagles were able to snag Antoine Powell-Ryland, a guy who had more sacks than all but 2 players in the entirety of FBS football. With Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat saying sayonara to Philly, the Eagles had to reload their pass rush. The 6'3", 253-pound sack machine in Powell-Ryland was one of 4 new additions to this Eagle attack. With a lot of new faces, Antoine's going to have a chance to compete right out of the gate. Oh, and Eagles fans, it's APR for short, but I'm sure you'll get used to it. Last, but certainly not least, one pick after his Saxburg brethren, the tenacious Aeneas Peeble was the 5th and final Hokie to hear his name called. Peebles was an All-ACC first-teamer and a third-team All-American, so it was kind of hard to believe that he was available this late. His short and stocky frame, along with little versatility, made Peebles slide a lot further than scouts projected. But make no mistake, Baltimore, pairing him with Nnamdi Madubuike could be a decision that makes this Ravens D-line that much better. At 6'1", 288 pounds, he's undersized for NFL standards, but what he lacks in size, he makes up for an absolute dog. Peebles is violent, aggressive, and everything you'd want from an interior defensive lineman. All in all, it was a wildly successful draft for Virginia Tech football. While no Hokies heard their names called in rounds 1 through 3, think of Wyatt Teller, Tyrod Taylor, Even Cam Chancellor, a lot of Hokie greats who were studs in the NFL, also had to wait until day 3 of the draft. With team workouts starting up and training camp a couple months down the road, I'm very excited to see which Hokies make their mark on the professional gridiron. Riley and Cody, back to you.
Great stuff, Robbie. Let's turn our attention towards baseball. A pair of 11-inning thrillers to split the opening 2 games last weekend at Duke. The series finished, though, with a 14-0 blowout, and Duke looked pretty good. Virginia Tech continued to struggle in the midweek against Liberty.
Yeah, a lot's going on with this baseball team. 22 innings in 2 games is a lot of baseball to be played, but the common trend, you also mentioned the Liberty loss, is pitching. It has been a struggle for Virginia Tech. It feels like as of late they can get a solid start from Brett Renfroe to open a series, and then it just kind of starts to fall apart. They've used 6 pitchers in each of the last 3 games. They just can't seem to get any distance out of guys. They need to improve in that area.
Yeah, and right, it's been a lot of the bullpen guys who have struggled a lot for Virginia Tech. That's been the interesting piece to look at is they've used so many bullpen arms, and Chef continues to try to play the matchup game, which he's actually done a pretty darn good job at, even when they played it a couple weeks ago against North Carolina in that 3rd game. It turned out pretty good for this team, but it just doesn't seem to be a sustainable answer, right, Riley, especially as you continue on later in the season.
Right, there's more and more great teams on the calendar, and how do you manage that? I also think if you flip to the offensive end, to me, the biggest problem as of late is Virginia Tech early in the season, it feels like they were on for every 3 or 4 games, right? Maybe they have an off day in 1 series or so. Lately, it feels like they're hitting the ball well in 1 of every 4 games, which is something they certainly have to clean up going into the future games.
Yeah, the lineup needs to be more consistent because you're exactly right. They were going off to begin the season. It was a great order, but it just seems like everyone slowed down a little bit, right? Sam Tackett had an almost unsustainable start to the season. He's cooled down a little bit, but has still been consistent for Virginia Tech. You got to get some of the lower bats in the order going, right? I think that may be the answer for Virginia Tech. Some of the Hudson Luderman types.
Yeah, that could be the answer. Well, we've talked about baseball's recent results, but what's next for John Chef's squad? Let's turn to TV for his top 3 things Virginia Tech has to do down the stretch to see success. Taylor Brettel, what do you got?
With May now underway, the Hokies are in the home stretch of the regular season with just 10 games left. It's been a turbulent ride for the hammering Hokies, though, but they're aiming to turn things around in tonight's matchup against Pittsburgh. Let's take a look into Taylor's top 3 needs for Virginia Tech baseball in their finish to the regular season. Coming in at number 3, get back on track. After a strong 25-10 start to the season, the Hokies have struggled, dropping 8 of their last 12 games, so they now sit at just 27-18 with an under 500 record in the ACC at 11-13. Outside of conference play, their recent 13-4 loss to Liberty marks a rare stumble in midweek matchups, bringing their record in those games to 10-2. Moving on to number 2, finish strong in the ACC. Last season, the Hokies made an early exit from the ACC tournament after back-to-back losses to Duke and NC State. This year, there's a new tournament format with all 16 ACC teams receiving a bid. However, the Hokies currently sit 10th in the conference, just like last year, with 6 ACC games remaining. 3 of those matchups are against Pittsburgh, who hold a 6-15 record in the ACC, while 3 are against Virginia, sitting at 11-10 and 2 spots ahead of the Hokies in 8th place. And at number 1, drive-in runners, Hokies. In their loss to Liberty on Tuesday, the Hokies saw production from 8 different hitters, tallying 11 total hits. Despite that, they managed just 4 runs, leaving 11 runners stranded. It's been a clear struggle for Virginia Tech as of recent, but they hope to break it tonight against Pittsburgh. Guys?
Thanks, Taylor. Well, let's swing it over to softball, where a weekend series with the best of the best in the ACC awaits between Virginia Tech and Florida State. Cody, the top 2 teams are clashing off in Blacksburg this weekend.
Yeah, this is going to be a super fun one, and it's going to be the stars of the show we're going to see. Isa Torres, expect her to be a name you see all weekend if you're watching this Virginia Tech softball matchup. She's hitting near 450 on the season for Florida State. She's only a sophomore. She's got a long time to go until she graduates, and she's been unbelievable for the Seminoles. On the other side, of course, the star names for Virginia Tech. You got to expect a big weekend from Emma Lemley if they're going to be able to shut down this Florida State order.
Right, and this feels like such a strong matchup because the last 4 times these 2 teams have played in the series, they both were ranked. But I think it's going to be interesting to see both of these teams lost their Sunday matchup in the most recent series. So how are they going to bounce back off of that? It's going to be really exciting in Blacksburg this week.
Yeah, they dropped that Sunday matchup, and you got to expect that going to the West Coast is never going to be easy. And some Hokies have been making waves on the national level. For the Tech Tsunami taking over softball, here's our very own Sarah Luttenberger.
All this talk about Hokies in the NFL draft, but let's not look past the other draft going on right now where the Hokies have stolen the show. The Athletes Unlimited Softball League, or AUSL, is launching their inaugural season with their draft show taking place on Saturday, May 3rd at 9 p.m. on ESPNU. Their 4 teams, the Volts, the Bandits, the Talons, and Blaze, will be selecting players for their teams from an intimate list of college athletes. How to get on that list? Oh, no problem. Just be one of the top 12 college softball players in the country. Throughout the last few weeks, members of the AUSL have been surprising athletes across the NCAA with golden tickets to formally invite them to the draft. Like a real-life Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but hopefully no one is drowning in chocolate this time. Their first choice was none other than Virginia Tech pitcher Emma Lemley, who secured her golden ticket with 4 no-hitters and 1.91 ERA this season. She was the first of 5 NCAA pitchers who would be invited to the draft. After another 7 players were selected around the country, the committee made their way back to Blacksburg for draftee number 9. Willy Wonka herself, the commissioner of the AUSL, Kim Ang, surprised the nation's home run leader, Corey McMillan, with a golden ticket at the school's annual Gobbler Awards this past Tuesday, making Virginia Tech the first program with 2 golden ticket holders. Just in case leading the nation in home runs isn't enough to convince you, McMillan has also broken the Virginia Tech single-season home run record with 25 bombs, and she is a perfect 20 for 20 in stolen bases on the season. A well-deserved invitation, in my opinion. 3 days ago, Sierra Sacco and Raylan Chaffin of Mississippi State received golden tickets together, making them draftees 10 and 11, also from the same team. And finally, I guess you could call her the Charlie of the draft class, Florida State catcher Michaela Edenfield received the last golden ticket at their senior showcase this week, finalizing the 12 invitees just in time for Saturday night. But with all that excitement going on, Edenfield and the Seminoles will be traveling to Blacksburg to take on Lemley and McMillan and the rest of the Hokies in what is supposed to be a thrilling top 25 series this weekend. Florida State and Virginia Tech are both carrying some of the best softball players in the nation, and they will be at war for the top of the ACC this weekend. For the Hokies, hosting a regional is on the line, and for both teams, the ACC regular season title. And with that, I will say so long as I get ready to trade this microphone for a cap and gown. It has been a pleasure in this studio for one last time. Back to you guys.
Great stuff as always, Sarah. Sure to be a fun weekend in Blacksburg. Next Wednesday, Metallica will be coming into town. So we're going to give you our picks with some Metallica theme to it for this weekend, Riley.
Yeah, it's going to be very entertaining as they will be in town. They're expecting like 100,000 at this place. This is going to be an electric week. Let's start with baseball as we started talking about Virginia Tech versus Pitt. Who do you have winning the series, and how many games does each team?
Yeah, I think this is an easy one for me. I think probably 2-1 Virginia Tech is going to be the basic pick. I actually think Virginia Tech goes on the road and they sweep Pitt at their place. I think Virginia Tech needs a big bounce back if they really want to get into the NCAA tournament. A lot of people are predicting them to get in easy. I don't know if it's going to be as easy as people are saying. I think Virginia Tech needs a big win this weekend at Pitt, and I think they get it done.
Yeah, I've got them winning 2-1 in that one, which I guess apparently is the basic pick.
Yeah, well, the tradition of jumping to Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech, it began way back in 2001 when a band member began jumping and his colleagues joined, Riley. There's some Metallica fun facts for you.
Well, not only Metallica, but just teamwork, right?
Yes.
Could you imagine that day you're just in the stadium, one person starts jumping and someone said, I'm going to do that too. Started an entire wave of what all has happened.
I mean, it hasn't stopped to this day. Well, let's talk about the marquee matchup, right? Florida State and Virginia Tech softball. This is going to be a fun one. Who do you got?
Well, maybe this is a quote upset in a little bit of a way. I think Virginia Tech takes the series. I think it's going to be insanely close. I've got the Hokies 2-1.
I'm actually right there with you, Riley. I think Virginia Tech takes it 2-1 as well because they're going to have such a big home crowd behind them. It's going to be packed out at Tech Softball Park. I heard maybe rumblings that they're even putting extra seating in there over at Tech Softball Park. So it's going to be a fun one this weekend.
Yeah, well, so you're saying people might be coming in from everywhere. Well, Metallica has been everywhere. They are the first band in history that has been to all 7 continents, in large part due to their Freeze 'em All performance in Antarctica in 2013. Could you imagine that? In Antarctica, there is a concert going on, and apparently some people attended.
I mean, they've done so many wild things throughout their career, but to go to Antarctica and then go play a concert there, to have the wherewithal to say, hey, we're going to be the first band to play in all 7 continents, but they were the first to do it. Well, who do you think, Riley, this is our last pick for today, will be the most successful Tech draft pick? I know Robbie talked about it earlier in the show. Who do you think is the most successful out of this class?
Well, with the thing with them all being day 3 picks, right? On paper, who knows if they're going to get playing time right away. But they all fell into really good spots where if they do get playing time, they're going to develop. It's been rolling through my brain. I think that Jalen Lane long-term could be used in a lot of ways. But I'm going to go for a little bit swing for the fences. I think Dorian Strong could carve out a really strong role in Buffalo as that outside corner perhaps that they really like, some physicality that he could really make a name for himself.
Yeah, I really like that pick. And I was going to go Jalen Lane, but the only reason I don't is because the Commanders right now, they just have so much depth at receiver. I think the reason I'm going to go this guy is because the questioning at the position right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's why I'm going to go with Bashal Tootin. I just don't think they really know exactly what's going on at running back. I think there's a lot of questions to be answered over in Jacksonville, and if they can improve Tootin's fumbling possibilities and those problems, I think he's going to have a really successful NFL career potentially. Well, here's our final Metallica fun fact for you. They once played a legendary show in Moscow, Russia, in front of 1.6 million fans in attendance. I mean, could you just imagine that? 1.6 million people jumping. We were watching the video last night. It's insane.
It's ridiculous. Moscow has been a venue for a lot of big concerts, but for Metallica, that's their biggest one in history. It must have been electric to be in that atmosphere. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. A big thank you to our reporters Robbie Ackerley, Taylor Brettel, and Sarah Luttenberger, as well as our amazing production crew. Shout out Robert Bateman behind the scenes making this show possible, and to you, the viewer at home, for your continued support of 3304 Sports this whole school year. It's been a fun one inside of the studio. You can stay up to date with everything Virginia Tech athletics on our social media at 3304 Sports. But for now, I'm Riley Klaus, he's Cody Wagner, and we say so long